By the early 1880s, Rockefeller was no longer just a businessman. He had become a symbol. Newspapers blasted him daily. Editorial cartoons pictured him squeezing the life out of smaller companies. Columns hinted at bribed judges, friendly senators, secret deals. But more important than the facts was the perception. And perception had turned against him. He wasn't elected. He answered to no voters. Yet to many, he seemed to steer the economy itself. And that made people uneasy in a way prices and profits never had. When people fear power, they stop arguing about product quality. They start asking, who controls the rules? The governments began to move, slowly at first. States drafted bills. Federal officials argued about how to handle trusts. In 1882, the first real probes into Standard Oil began. But Rockefeller had already planned for probes. He didn't meet storms head-on. He engineered a shelter. He created the Standard Oil Trust. On paper, dozens of apparently independent companies, each with its own board. In practice, through voting agreements, stock controls, and legal structures, a single management controlled them all. Visible pieces with invisible strings.
So it looked like competition, but it wasn't?
Exactly. To the public, it looked like rivalry. To the market, it looked like control. It was legal, innovative, and deliberately hard to untangle. The irony deepened. Businesses that had complained about him soon copied the same structure. Steel, rail, sugar, tobacco. Everyone learned to hide control under layers of paper. The trust problem, it became America's problem.
So he basically invented the modern corporate shell game.
Exactly. And Congress responded. In 1890, lawmakers passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, a headline promise: no restraints of trade. But the law was thin on detail. No clear enforcement map, no operational definition of a monopoly. Words had been written, but the tools were missing.
So the law changed, but nothing else did?
For a while, yes. That vagueness bought time. Standard Oil Trust kept growing because you can't cut a web with a blunt phrase. Detangling a nationwide corporate labyrinth takes lawyers, investigators, and years. It would take nearly 2 decades before the government could build the case that actually reached the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Rockefeller did what he'd always done: stay out of the spotlight, avoid grand speeches, and tighten his influence quietly. Power without noise. And then, when the courtroom finally arrived, it would not merely test a company. It would test whether the law could follow where industry had already led. Tap subscribe.
The full story's right here.